Now you're a thief. Everybody I know knows it. You're indiscreet.
This story today about the Chinese hack into U.S. government records just reminds me one more time, as if I need to be reminded, why we all have to be on it when it comes to our personal records. Makes you want to just burrow yourself in a hole somewhere and not put anything online. But your identity is at risk. It's just cyber criminals are everywhere, not just China. They're in Russia, Iran, here in the United States. And if you do online banking, you go to the doctor, you have any Wi-Fi in your home or in your business, and you have personal records on your computer, guess what? You're susceptible. That means you have to get LifeLock Ultimate Plus. It helps protect your Social Security number, your retirement accounts, bank accounts, credit cards, even the equity in your home. It's easy. This is what you have to do now. Check it out. Go to LifeLock.com, use that promo code Laura, or call and mention Laura, and you can save 10%. Again, LifeLock.com. Get LifeLock Ultimate Plus, and you call 800-495-8020. Remember, no one can stop all identity theft at every moment of the day, at every transaction, but you need the best of the best, and that's LifeLock. Again, it's 800-495-8020.
We are the most compassionate nation on earth. We are the people that have welcomed people from all over the world for over 200 years in a way that other countries rejected because they were scared of it. Not us, we embraced it. And because we did, those immigrants, each of us, the direct descendants of immigrants, have created here the single greatest society that man has ever known.
Well, that's nice. I mean, that sounds nice. And Marco Rubio, I think, has gotten better and better on the trail. His performance, his delivery, his political skills have been sharpened, undoubtedly. The new Pew poll paints a different story. We have now 70% of Americans polled by Pew said they do not want an increase in the country's immigration levels. And more Americans than ever are viewing immigrants as burdens on the nation. 70% do not want an increase in immigration levels. People focus on illegal immigration, whether to give pathway to citizenship or not, and that's fine. But Americans, I think, have had about enough. We're generous, but we're not stupid. And every time we open up the paper, we see another story about flatlining wages, fewer job opportunities, H-1B visas being used to replace American workers, as we saw with the 250 that Disney displaced and humiliated them further by having them train the foreign replacements. Wall Street Journal today, weakening productivity augurs ill for wages. But let's triple the number of foreign workers coming into the country, as that Senate immigration reform bill would have done. And Marco Rubio and other senators who signed on to this, they haven't backed away from it, at least not that portion of the legislation, tripling the number of foreign workers. Joining us now, my friend, I love being on with him, by the way, when we're on Special Report together, Tucker Carlson, whose website, The Daily Caller, has done phenomenal work on the issue of immigration, trade, and beyond. He's also the co-host of Fox and Friends on the weekends, Fox News contributor, and he joins us now. Tucker, it's great to talk to you, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Laura, I'm great. By the way, that Disney story, which is an amazing story, is the most shared news article on the New York Times website today. Now, the New York Times website is obviously the first stop for America's left-wing establishment. And the fact that that story, along with lots of pieces on, transgendered soccer players and the rest, is number one, indicates to me that this is not just an issue that the right cares about or traditional conservatives care about. Anybody who reads a story about Americans being displaced from real jobs, not, fast food jobs, but actual white-collar jobs by foreigners with the H-1B program, it's offensive even to the liberals in this country. Like, people, the more they know about it, just don't like it. And why would they? It's bad for America.
Bob Iger, CEO over at Disney, made $30 million last year. Disney makes billions. It's been incredibly profitable for the corporation, which is fine. I mean, the theme parks. But that story, see, people know Disney. They think of Walt Disney and the wonder that he brought so many families and children, and his view of how important it was to create this environment for Americans, to a family-friendly environment to share and enjoy. And so you think of Walt Disney and you think of what's happening today. I mean, look, obviously I don't know him, never did know him. He died a long time ago, but I can't imagine that he'd be happy about this.
No, I think Walt Disney was a great guy by every indication. I mean, the left kind of went after him 20 years ago on the grounds that, his views weren't sufficiently modern. But all the evidence is he was kind of an amazing person, obviously a creative genius, but also totally pro-American, conservative in the best sense. I don't think Walt Disney would be replacing competent American workers with foreigners in order to save 15%. I just don't see that.
Now, I know the Daily Caller has done a lot on this issue. You guys have led, Breitbart, you, and some, I think us on Talk Radio, and New York Times caught up 6 months after we first heard about this story last October, which is good. But we have an odd scenario here with Marco Rubio having, I think, tried to step back somewhat from his immigration reform push. He obviously sees it's very toxic on the campaign trail among grassroots supporters. But he's never backed away from this core view that you need to triple the number of guest workers over a number of years, which is in this bill. And in fact, he continues to support this, as do many of his big donors.
Well, sure. I mean, the donors profit from it, as does everybody in my neighborhood. I live in an affluent zip code, and immigration's been fantastic for everyone I live next to. And by the way, for me too. As a higher income person, I'm a beneficiary of it. But the country's not. And I thought from day one that the illegal immigration debate, while interesting and meaningful, and I don't want to take anything away from it, is basically a sideshow compared to the significance of the legal immigration debate. I mean, that's where the real numbers are. The number you let in illegally to displace American workers in a slack job market. And that's something that most Republican candidates have not been called on. And by the way, the illegal immigration debate is just too easy to weasel out of, because you immediately just point to border enforcement. I would put drones on the border. I'd put concertina wire and guard dogs and machine gun nests and, okay, whatever. But that's not the point. That's not the threat to my job. The illegal immigration is.
Why are conservatives only getting mad at Jeb Bush for this when Rubio pushes the same policies?
Because that's such a smart question, and I'm not sure I know the answer. I thought for a while that there's a lot of latent hostility to Bush's brother that conservatives feel they can't express. They were really disappointed in his presidency, especially the second term, but they didn't feel like they could say it because they didn't want to be on MSNBC's side, and they're taking some of that out on Jeb. I mean, clearly that's part of what's happening. Part of it is, they want a front runner. They want someone to support, and they want it early. It's not the Republican way. It's not in their nature to have a protracted primary fight. They don't want to argue about ideas, actually, most of them. They want to just call whatever the program is conservative. Reagan would have done this, and move on and beat Hillary. And I'm not attacking. I get that. That's a human response. But it takes a lot to force Republicans to have what I think is a needed debate over what it means to be conservative and where should the party go, henceforth. And that's something that you only reach, that's a conclusion you only reach when you've had the debate over the key issues. And those obviously include immigration. And, but they have to be forced to have that debate, and that's fine.
I'm looking at the video this morning, getting ready for the Belmont Stakes. I think it's great that you're riding number 73. That's awesome.
Yeah, well,
Tucker's Dream. Wow.
I had to drop over 100 pounds to do it.
Yeah, but you're looking good, though. That Mediterranean diet, I think that worked well for you. But it is something, though. I think you made the point that they want a front runner. They want to believe in someone, right? He's young and he has an attractive family, and he's well spoken. He clearly loves America. But this is a big issue, and I think that if National Review or these other conservative outlets, they just kind of run to give their imprimatur to Marco Rubio without having this real honest conversation about the fact that indeed he has not flip-flopped on this Senate immigration bill, because the thing that was really important for business, you're right, Tucker, wasn't amnesty. It was ensuring a free flow of foreign workers who will be able to come into this country without really any significant justification and replace American workers or legal immigrant workers who are, frankly, too much of a pain because they want benefits or they want an increase in pay every now and then. And that was the real gold for the big money crowd, is that legal immigration.
Of course. And the irony is, of course, that no one's going away. So the Americans displaced are still getting benefits. They're just being paid for directly by the taxpayer. And so that cost, the cost of keeping those people alive and fed and housed and educating their kids, is just transferred directly onto the American taxpayer. That's what happens when you're unemployed. The taxpayer supports you. And as for the new imports, the new cheaper labor designed to undercut, native labor, existing labor, the ancillary costs of their lives are also picked up by the U.S. taxpayer. I mean, they're getting wages that can't possibly support a family, and so they're augmenting that with social programs that you and I are paying for. And so really the only beneficiaries in this system are those employers. I mean, I'm sorry to sound like wobbly or something, but that's just true. And I don't know why conservatives have been so reticent to admit that, but that's what's going on.
I think Reagan understood, and people say Reagan nostalgia. He died, by the way, 11 years ago today.
Wow.
It's hard to believe. But people say, well, you're caught up in this Reagan nostalgia. No, I'm not. I mean, yeah, of course we all miss Reagan. But I'm actually interested in winning and making this country stronger. And that means giving people a sense that really it is possible to be successful in a capitalist economy if you're someone who graduates from high school and maybe go to a trade school. Maybe you go to a trade school and you can actually have a pretty decent life if you work hard and play by the rules. And appealing to that sensibility of America, I think that's populist. And a lot of people look down at this word populist. They think it's code for stupid. But populist is what Reagan was. And he was in his domestic policy. He was in his foreign policy. He was smart about tariffs. He used them as proper weapons to level the playing field. He used them when appropriate. And I think he understood that. And populism today, I think, would transform the race. A true populist candidate, and Rick Santorum's trying to do it, Huckabee, I guess. But someone like a Rubio, imagine if he were a populist.
Well, he'd win the nomination immediately. But the problem with that kind of populism is it's much more complicated than the sort of Facebook efficiency being foisted on us by the elites. I mean, the problem with Americans, employing Americans, is it costs a little more. It's a little more complicated. You actually have to worry about public schools. It's so much easier just to say, well, our schools are terrible, and who knows how to fix them? We don't. Let's just import people from other countries. That's just a fast solution. But if you actually cared about Americans, you would say, well, all right, we're going to do what's necessary to create a useful workforce. As it stands, our bargain basically is, okay, you're lame, go back to Appalachia, go back to your OxyContin, we'll subsidize you with disability payments and food stamps, just don't make a lot of noise, and we'll replace you with people who aren't like a hassle to deal with, who are young and hungry and foreign and don't want all this stuff that you want, and they've been educated in other school systems, and you know what I mean? We'll send our kids to Spence and Dalton and not have to worry about you. I mean, that's totally what's going on. It's interesting.
I'm heading up to some college graduations, and the percentage of foreign students has skyrocketed in my old alma mater, Dartmouth, and a lot of Chinese students. They come here, get their degree, and they're happy to get their degree. Some want to stay. We're concerned now with the cyber spying that's going on, the hacking. And this, again, the Senate Gang of Eight bill, which Jeb Bush essentially, likes as well, to do something similar, that would give an unending number of green cards to anyone who graduates from a U.S. university. We just found out that report in the L.A. Times last week, Tucker, that we got these Chinese students who are also hacking. They were spying for the Chinese government. They're waiting for their green card, I guess. They were spying.
But why is this good for us exactly? No one's ever really explained it. I mean, I kind of get the idea that, giving foreigners exposure to the American way of life makes us more popular and all that. And I'm not against. That's not crazy. But when it comes down to it, I've got a couple kids in college, so I've seen this up close recently. Super hard to get into college. And one of the main reasons it is because the competition is so much harder with all these foreigners coming to American colleges. These colleges, every single one, with the exception of only 2 in America, is subsidized by the U.S. taxpayer. So why should I be paying for it to become harder for my kids to get into college? What's the answer?
Well,
maybe there's a good answer. I just have never heard it. No one's ever been.
Yeah, the answer is the same answer that applies to these trade negotiations that are being done in secret. The trade deal is pretty much done, but it's all secret. It's good for the global interest. So globalism.
But why is it good for me? I mean, why is it good for America?
Well,
I don't understand. I mean, shouldn't they be at least asked that question? No one ever asked that question.
No, that's why I think we need the American Party. I think we just have to. The whole Republican-Democrat divide. That's not really a divide anymore. They agree on a lot of these issues. So, Tucker, any plans for Fox and Friends this weekend that we should know about? You do some weird things out on the plaza there. Anything?
Oh man, I'm sure we'll be out there with animals or doing some kind of obstacle course where Anna Koyman crushes me, or I try not even to know because it makes me nervous ahead of time.
You'll be planking tomorrow.
I'll be planking.
Planking contest. You'll have to do the plank through the break and then throw to the next break while still planking. Tucker Carlson. Here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Great to talk to you, Tucker. Have a great week.
Thanks, Laura.
We'll be watching. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. Is American Pharoah going to win the Triple Crown this weekend? A lot of these other horses running against Pharoah have not run the previous two races. Is that fair? Don't go away.
The Laura Ingraham Show.